Hello and welcome to the first and introductory episode of the as of yet unnamed NDP podcast. That is the National Distributist Party podcast, of which I, Fraser, am a member. I am a regional organiser and officer for the Northeast. I am joined today by Tyler.
Good afternoon. I'm Tyler. I am the party leader of the National Distributist Party, and I'm also its first town councillor in Nailsworth, Gloucestershire, and I've been a town councillor since May of last year.
And I'm also joined by Sam.
Hello, everybody. My name's Sam. I'm the Birmingham Regional Organiser, and I'm also the party officer. So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about what the National Distributist Party actually is. We're going to discuss what distributism itself is. We're then going to talk about the progress of the founding of the party and where we want to go into the future. So the first question which I have, which I'm going to aim towards yourself, Fraser, is what does the word national in National Distributist Party, what does it mean? What does it stand for? Can you give us that information?
The national part of our National Distributist Party name is in reference to our membership's shared belief that the British way of life is worth protecting, worth advancing, and is in many ways excellent above other cultures and beliefs. We believe that the British way of life is worthy of being defended by strong borders and by active and ardent patriots who want to uphold the many things that British people and British culture has brought to the world. Things like our democratic principles, our adherence to fair game equality under the law, equality simply in society. Our nationalist epithet is, in essence, a celebration of everything it means to be British.
Exactly. So the nationalist part of the NDP is a celebration of who we are as a people and the preservation of that. So the next part of the NDP is distributist. Tyler, I move on to you. What do we mean when we call ourselves distributists?
So distributism in and of itself can be split sort of into two parts, one being economic and one being social. So for the economic side, the main general gist of distributism is the idea of subsidiary, which means that the smallest possible unit should be the primary unit. So what this means is that, say, there's a big factory somewhere that's making stained glass, for example. We believe that instead of the factory, there should be artisans either in their sheds or in little workshops making the stained glass and reaping the benefits of owning their production through that means, instead of, say, a socialist way where the factory would be nationalized and the workers of the factory would technically own the means of production. Along with subsidiary is we do believe in nationalization. However, how this works is that in any industry or key areas of the economy where primary units aren't able to get the sort of capital required to run or do these startups. So a good example of this would be the trains. One man working on the railway would never be able to afford his own train to set up his own line, etc., etc. So these would be nationalized not only because the man on the street can't invest his own capital into owning his own train company, but also because it is a key industry. So these would also be things like steel production. Obviously, in this country, we have seen the decline of our steel industry. We would like to revive that as it is a key industry. The other side of distributism is social teaching. We usually stick to a Catholic social teaching model for our party's ideology. What this usually focuses on is sort of community. So in the traditional sense, that is sort of, we recognize that people need a third place to go and, enjoy each other's company. So this would be the pub, usually. And we've seen also the decline of the pub, and we would hope to try to reverse that. With community as well, we'll go into it a lot more later, is bringing back religion in the church. Obviously, that is another pillar of community. And then we also have in Catholic social teaching the importance of the family unit. So this would be sort of the nuclear family, larger families being able to succeed. So obviously in this country we have a very low fertility rate now. I think it's about 1.3. We would hope to take it to minimum replacement level again. This would be either through policies like in Hungary, which include tax breaks for people with bigger families, etc., etc. But we also would focus on the big issue of abortion as well and its effect on our society and how it degrades sort of family living by reducing the status of a child.
I noticed that you've made reference to the church, specifically Catholic social teaching. I myself, as a party member, I'm a Baptist, and I know that we have many atheist or agnostic members and Orthodox members too. I'm going to move this over to Fraser. How do we operate as a Christian party without being exclusively Christian?
Our beliefs, the economic ones, the social ones, and the political ones, are all rooted in Catholic teaching, but we do not believe them to be necessarily exclusive with the beliefs of non-Catholics. What I mean by that is that many of our beliefs we feel are common sense beliefs. Loving your country, wanting it to thrive, wanting to see your fellow man and woman be able to invest in themselves and make a decent living, as well as wield real political power. These are beliefs that we feel are objectively good. They're without flaw that is not disingenuous or malicious. And so we champion these, and they are, in fact, rooted from biblical teaching and from the teaching of the church.
I noticed that you're mentioning what appears to be an objective good. Obviously, distributism is rooted in Christianity. So, Tyler, I move my question to you. Can you just talk about how distributism came about and its relationship with the church?
So distributism came about from Pope Leo. He basically realized that during the Industrial Revolution that there needed to be a different path for humanity that wasn't just rampant capitalism or also socialism. And so he wrote in his book Rerum Novarum the main tenets of the new ideology that he called distributism, or was later called distributism. This was built upon by Catholic apologetics writer and detective writer G.K. Chesterton in his books What's Wrong with the World and also Hilaire Belloc's The Servile State in 1912. And then from there, another friar, Vincent McNabb, he also wrote about distributism in his books called The Land and Its People. And essentially, they built upon the ideas and modernized it for 1920. And so what we're trying to do in the National Distributist Party is to remodernize the ideas from these writers and the Pope into a new sort of 21st century way.
I noticed that you mentioned Pope Leo. For our viewers, we have had a new Pope since Francis. We have now got Pope Leo the 14th. And there seems to be some credible evidence to suggest that the document Tyler just referred to, Pope Leo the 14th actually wants to make a revision to. Is that something else you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's obviously quite important that for Catholics and for Christianity as a whole, that when the leadership changes, there can be changes in the views of the church. Obviously, most people consider the previous pope to be quite a liberal pope, whereas hopefully with signs like these, the new pope might be a more conservative pope in a way that in a way that puts forward the ideal of distributism to a new modern audience, but also doesn't take it in a more sort of liberal direction.
Exactly. The idea that the new pope will be making a continued speech on the Rerum Novarum, countering threats such as AI and a digitalization of the workplace. There is hope that he may draw closer onto distributist teachings. So let's now talk about the potential progress of the party. Tyler, as you've mentioned, you are currently the leader of the party. So how about you just tell us a little bit about how the party got founded, and then yourself, your role as a local councillor, before we move on to Fraser and we discuss about the movement of the party in the future.
So it's a common misconception that I founded the party. I actually joined sort of 6 months after the party was founded by two of the other members. I joined in October 2021. I became leader then as well. And from there, in that December, we got registered as a minor political party. Oh no, in 2023, we got registered as a minor political party. We were doing a lot of the setup in those 2 years. During that time, it has been a lot of building of regional branches, just putting our message out, refining how we do our leafleting, devising strategies and things, and building connections with other parties. Before, we had a very, very, very localist sort of strategy where we wanted to have a certain amount of parish and town councillors before upgrading to a major political party. However, we ran into the roadblock that you could have as many parish councillors as you want. There will be no sort of attention to do with it. It's an important role in society, being parish and town councillors. It's the smallest scale of local politics. And as someone who now has experience in that, although you personally as a councillor don't wield that much power, you still have an effect in your community that is visible. For example, I've done tree planting on behalf of the council and with wildlife charities in the area. That is one small way that I have that my time as a councillor has benefited my local community. You know, it's quite literally plant a tree to provide shade that you will never sit in. And as local councillors as well, you can also discuss where sort of grant money goes. So this goes to charities, this goes to community groups. And although in my particular ward of Nailsworth, going into the council, it's actually a very well-run council. There's no financial problems, and there's lots of funding for community groups. There's lots of welfare funding, and there's lots of funding for public works. So going into it, it wasn't the sort of walk in and change everything and try and have a big battle over things. However, there are community councils and parish councils and town councils which are run poorly and are more political than the one that I'm in. So the one that I'm in, we are a non-political parish council. That means you don't have party allegiances. I only found this out after being sworn into office. However, most town councils and parish councils will be run on party lines, even though they don't have to be.
Thank you for that, Tyler. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how the future of the NDP will look, and will you still be the party leader going forward?
So I've recently been doing the rounds as leader, basically spreading the word that in January of next year, I'll be leaving to go to Australia to do some working out there, more so for my own personal reasons. So I'll be handing the baton down to Fraser for him to take the party in a new direction. And this direction will be going from a minor party to a major party so that we can start fighting in district elections. We can start fighting in council elections and mayoral and in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland on PR systems. And so that we can hopefully get some real energy behind us and start making big strides. We've made the small steps. We've got the foundations. It's time to run with it.
Thank you, Tyler. As Tyler's mentioned, our membership has continued to grow. We've set up branches all across the country, and we want to start expanding upon that electorally. So Fraser, we come to you now as the prospective next leader of the party. Can you just talk about what your vision of the party is and where you see us going in the future?
I've said it to a couple of other members of the party, Tyler included, I believe, as well as to other members of the leadership. When I gave a speech recently at our Birmingham yearly conference, when it was first announced that I would be taking over as the leader from Tyler sometime later this year or next year. Now we know it's January of next year. Basically, what I said, and have continued to say, is that during my tenure, however long it may last, I want to achieve two things with the party that have not been achieved so far, but which I think are vital to gaining a national distributist presence, I suppose. I think that first of all, not enough people know our message. We need everyone in the country to know our name before they can possibly vote for us, or support us, or criticize us, or whatever it may be. Right now, we are relatively unknown. So I want to make us widely known. I want to get our name out there. The other part of becoming a truly major party is getting people to take our message seriously. At the moment, there's a lot of small right-wing parties and even left-wing parties coming into existence, sputtering out after only a couple of months, or perhaps even as much as a year, because ultimately their message is unserious, or not unique, or suffers from any other fatal flaws that mean its membership quickly lose interest and flicker off into other parties that have just started. I think that we have a genuinely unique outlook on politics, a genuinely new approach. I think that the unique part of that approach is our Christian and Catholic rooting. And so I think that we deserve to exist as a party and have a lot of potential when it comes to growing and creating a real and separate opposition to established parties. But part of becoming that real opposition is convincing the everyday voter, the everyday British man and woman, that our message it's not just a flight of fancy. It's not just a political flash in the pan. We are genuinely dedicated to this way of life, to this political belief, and we are going to carry it as far as it can go. And we're not going to give up on it after only a number of months or a year or two. We've already proven that, I suppose, by staying coherent for 4 years. But we need to prove the truth of that message to other people.
Thank you for that. I noticed you mentioned the various smaller right-wing parties and indeed left-wing parties. Are these potential people we can work with, or do you see the National Distributist Party as a lone ranger, if you will, in the electoral landscape?
As I've said, I think the NDP occupies a unique position in the electoral landscape because of our Christian beliefs. And so it may be difficult to find other parties on the left or the right who would be satisfied with aligning with us or subordinating themselves to our message. But at the same time, I think our message is sincere and patriotic. It's not malicious towards any one group, nor is it engineered to bring about wealth or power or fame for the party members. And so, approaching it from a position of honesty and sincerity and a desire to see the country flourish, I think we could find common ground with parties across the spectrum, small, large, left or right, who want to see, I would say, common sense policies be implemented, things like proportional representation. proportionalisation, for example, is something that's very popular and increasingly popular across both sides of the spectrum. And so these issues, the issues that the British public as a whole support, but which the political establishment, who currently dominates the country, puppeteers it, don't support, those kinds of policies, I think we could rally alongside other people with.
I believe this leads us into the final part of today's podcast, that being discussing the different avenues of which you can interact with the National Distributist Party, those being the Hound tabloid, which we are looking to increasing the production of into quarterly production, that being this Hound podcast, also being a quite new Substack which we have created, and of course you can reach us on Instagram at the National Distributist Party. And final things from me, and I will open this up again to Tyler and Fraser. As we move forward as a party, of course, we're going to be looking to winning more local elections. So if anybody listening would like to run or get involved in the party, do give us a message. Any final comments, Tyler or Fraser?
Do you want to go first, Tyler, if you have any?
So in terms of final comments, in terms of how to interact with the NDP, or ways in which you can, I think the most important way right now to spread the word of distributism is the easy thing to do is join the party, and the next step from there is to become an activist. If we can grow and build small groups of distributists across the country, from my experience doing election campaigns with other parties and things, at the present time, we have strength and conviction in our beliefs that actually other parties don't have. I was out recently leafleting with UKIP in Frampton-on-Severn for the recent by-election there, where they got 5 votes out of thousands. And essentially what went wrong with their campaign is they just didn't have a rigid strategy. They just put out a few leaflets a few days before the election, and that was it. There was no knocking on doors, no canvassing, none of that. There was no interaction with the community. And from previously putting together my election campaign, our distributist election campaign for a parish council seat in Gloucestershire, where we only have a handful of members, we would have had double the amount of volunteers turn up that UKIP did in this election, and they have thousands more members than us. What we have that they don't is we have an energetic message. We have a message that has a bright future in politics. We have a message that isn't simply stuck in a declining party. What we need is we need fresh people with a bit of fire and a bit of sort of go, who want to try and build something new for our country and build a new political party in which these ideas can be put into practice. That's the way things change. Things will only change slightly if you just talk about it. The way to get things done is to get involved.
Would I be correct in saying that members of the party have also helped in successful campaigns, such as working with the SDP at some point?
So many years ago now, about 2, I was in contact with the local SDP regional organiser who was in Gloucester. Unfortunately, due to internal politics and things, he left the party, so I sort of lost the connection with those. Obviously, going to this UKIP by-election was to go and talk to their national chairman, Ben Walker, about the possibility of, this or that, and sort of just generally gauging the strength of their party, because it's quite a difficult one to try and size up, because they do have members, they do have the finances. It's just they sort of don't have the right energy and messaging. Some other parties that we could align with hypothetically are more on the right, but we can also, like Fraser said, go and align with some on the left. Distributism isn't specifically a right or left thing. there's pieces in the ideology that sort of everyone from all walks of life can agree with. It's not simply a bipolar choice with us.
Thank you for that. And Fraser, your final comments for today?
I think the main thing for anyone listening to this is to ask yourself, what political difference are you making? I think it's acceptable for some people to detach themselves from politics, to not take a hand in it, because I think at its core, it can be quite a depressing affair. Right now, we're not seeing much upward progress in our country or even in our civilization, the Western civilization. I think in a lot of ways we're regressing, and we're starting to degenerate away from the civilizational peak of I think the early 1900s. We're starting to decline in every way. People are less happy than ever, less wealthy than ever. They might have small comforts. I think certainly many people have been lifted out of poverty since the early 1900s, but at the same time, what is an existence without meaning, without the ability to control your own destiny and the destiny of your local area, your region or town, or even your country? I think even if you don't agree with the beliefs that we've laid out today, or with Christianity, or with the right wing, or whatever, I think people should be getting more and more involved in politics.
Thank you for that, Fraser. Well, there you have it, everybody. This was the first episode of the NDP podcast. Signing off.